Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here, and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be working with a couple of different sets, making a one-layer card. Coffee sets are always my favorite, so today I am working with Coffee Break and Perfect Blend, which is the sentiment sets. Literally, you can make any coffee card that you will, or tea, the card that you ever need with that sentiment set. So I knew I wanted it to be a one-layer card with kind of a distress ink background. So I have cut my masks already, and one of the benefits of this, of having your masks cut, is you can use your masks to kind of decide what your layout's going to be before you really even get started stamping or, kind of doing anything else. So once I had my masks positioned, I'm just going to use a pencil to draw a really light line underneath them so I know where I want them to go. And then I'm just going to line my stamps up right on top of those masks. And when you're doing a one-layer card, you want to stamp front to back. So whatever you want in the foreground will go first. For me, it's going to be this cute little mug right here. I'm stamping in Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp because it's copic safe, and that's how I'm going to color these up. So I'm just going to stamp that down, and then I will put my mask back in place and then continue stamping. So when I was making this card, I couldn't not use all of the images, and there's two images that look like if you're looking like face down at a table. So if I had figured out a way to put those in there somehow and make that make sense, I probably would have. They're just so cute. So for this one, I'm going to stamp this down, and then I'm going to put the mask back in place. Well, right after I ink up the top again, I did not get a very good impression. That was my own fault. But I'm going to put the mask back in place, and then you can see I already have like the straw mask where I want that to go. And for this one, that's why it's important to have the mask back in place. And it's also important to remove your masks, which I forgot to do here. And you can see I almost stamped it right on top of my mask. So for this one, that way I can stamp the straw and it will look like it's connected. I'm going to put this mask back in place, but I'm going to do it kind of underneath because it will hold it more securely when I'm doing the ink blending on my background. That's why I opted to put it underneath. And then the last little coffee mug is going to go to the left-hand side. And then I'm also going to mask that because, like I said, I'm doing the one-layer card with the distress inking. So those masks will protect my little coffee mugs from any color that I don't want to get on it. So here I wanted to do just like a perfect square, basically, for my background. So I'm using, I can't remember if this is Eclipse or if it's the 2-inch 3M tape. I use both. But for the sides, I'm just going to trim one in half. It doesn't need to be perfectly straight, as long as you remember when you're putting your mask down to put the straight edge on the inside. Because if the wonky edge hangs off, it doesn't matter as long as the straight edge is on the inside. And then I did kind of play around with this just a little bit to kind of get where I wanted the placement to be. When I first started, there wasn't enough background showing. So I'm using Distress Oxides for my background and just an ink blending tool. I thought it would be kind of fun to go at a diagonal because I usually go like top to bottom when I'm doing my distress inking. So here I'm putting the peacock feathers in the bottom right hand corner. I'm putting the salty ocean in the top left hand corner. I'm gonna come to regret this, but we will come back to that later. So once I had the color done and the intensity that I was happy with, which I did go fairly dark with it, I wanted to add a little bit of darkness on the outside. So for the peacock feathers, I added some Lucky Clover, and for the salty ocean, I added some faded jeans, just kind of in those little corners. And then if you have ever watched my videos before, you pretty much know what is going to be coming next. I'm going to go ahead and remove those masks. I will caution you, make sure you are careful with your inky fingers, because if you're trying to keep a one-layer card and have that white background, you want to keep it pristine. Sometimes you do get ink on your fingers. I have ruined so many cards that way. But anyhow, like I said, you know what's coming next. I'm just sprinkling on some clean, clear water. You want to be very careful with the amount of moisture you're putting on here because these are paper masks, so it will bleed through if you are not careful. I'm going to use some Perfect Pearls in the color Perfect Pearls to just splatter on some shine in the background. If I had to do this all over again, I would not do this step. Because what ended up happening is it started to have a very kind of galaxy feel, because I did the splatters in the background and the Perfect Pearls in the background. So right now I'm not going to stress about it. I'm going to do the coloring and then see what it looks like in the end. So I'm starting off with some warm grays. There's a lot of like typically when you see, you know, coffee cups, there's usually a lot of white areas. For this, I'm starting off just with the whipped cream that's on the coffee in the back right. The way that it's drawn, I wanted to add some shading kind of where it's coming up from the cup, and then to each one of those little lines. Now, I'm not taking it out very far because this is supposed to be white. So anytime you're coloring an object white, you want to make sure you leave white in that object. But I am adding just little lines of shading. And then as I come up from the bottom, I'm kind of changing my stroke so that it fits the shape of that whipped cream. I'm also going to color the coffee holder on the left-hand side with the same warm grays. This one's going to get just a little bit darker than the whipped cream did. So it is going to be more gray than white. This is also where I'm going to add in that W7 that I showed you. But really, I was just looking for some neutral colors because I wasn't really sure where I was going to go with this, since I have created like a galaxy coffee card. Like I imagine if you, I don't know, went to outer space and got some coffee from the Jetson household, this is how this would look. So I'm also using my cool grays to create some white areas. So here for the top of this lid, I'm adding shading just kind of to the left and the right hand side, and then also to the bottom of each kind of portion of it, because you want to create some, even though it's white, you want to create some depth. A lot of people ask, you know, if they were going to buy Copic markers, or if they're just starting out buying Copic markers, do they need all of them? You don't need all of them. I would recommend that you get the warm grays and the cool grays. They also have neutral grays and toner grays. But I actually had a friend who had them all, and I tried them all out next to each other, and there wasn't enough of a difference for me to justify that expense. So the warm and the cool grays are different enough for me to justify having them, but the ones in the middle I'll probably never purchase. So for this coffee cup, I wanted this coffee cup to be white as well, and so I'm adding shading just to kind of the left and the right hand side. There's going to be more shading where that cup is sitting behind the plate or saucer, and a little bit more where the mug is connected to the back. So now even though it's clear, I do want to add some shading to the top of the lid, and so I'm doing that with the cool grays, just kind of to the left and the right hand side, not to the top at all. I went with a kind of a navy combination here because I thought that that would match my background fairly well. So for this cup, again, I'm coloring everything as if I have a central light source. And so you heard me say in the beginning, I love any kind of coffee cup set. The reason I love any kind of coffee cup set is because you can literally make them any color, any design, whatever it is that you want. So things like this, you know, coffee cups or just kind of, I guess, neutral objects is a really great opportunity to have like kind of some color play. So if there's a color combination that you want to try out, because maybe you think it would look pretty, you know, on a floral card, or if you think that, you know, you really love these three colors outside of themselves, but you want to see if they look good together, things like this, where it's just a, you know, a neutral object that can be whatever color or design that you want it to be, is a great time to kind of play around with your colors. So I'm doing this cup the same way I've been doing pretty much everything else. I'm adding shading to the left and the right hand side. I am going to be more aware that there should be more shading on the left because that coffee cup is sitting in front of it. And then just working from my lightest color out to my darkest, that's pretty much how I always roll. Just going to blend that out. And then I was kind of at a standstill for like what I wanted to do. I'm going to cover. I'm not covering anything. I'm coloring though. I'm certainly doing that. I'm going to color in the little coffee bean on the cup with those warm grays. And then in order to fill in that kind of plastic top, I just picked two colors, which was for me a BO2 and a BG45 that match my background to fill in that area because it is clear, so it wouldn't be white. So anyway, I was kind of at a standstill for what kind of colors I wanted to use. I did want to try to break this little card out of its space scene here. So I decided to go with some hot pinks because I figured, you know, it would kind of break up that color a little bit. It would add some brightness. I don't necessarily know that it achieved what I was going for. I still think it looks pretty. I like pink with these two colors specifically, the blue and the blue-green. So basically, I'm just kind of adding a little bit of darkness to the center circle there, and then getting lighter towards the center. For the straw, I added more darkness or more shadows where it was actually going into the whipped cream, and then it got lighter towards the top. For this other coffee mug, pretty much everything the same, guys. You know, adding that shade to the left and the right hand side. This time there will be more shading to the right because that coffee mug is in front of it. And with these RVs are kind of interesting to work with because the lightest colors, the RVO2, lift up so much of the color before it, because I don't know if it's because it has more colorless blender in the color, but it really does pick up quite a bit of color. So with the RVs, I tend to get maybe a little bit darker than I normally would because I know when I put the RVO2 on top of it, it's really going to lighten up the colors that are around it and blend it in. So once I had that done, I wanted to add just a little something to the inside of this cup, and this heart does come in that set, and it fits perfectly in that little circle. Originally, I started out with the BO2 and the B93 to fill in the center. That kind of wasn't bold enough for me, so I'm going to go back and fix it. I used the same pinks to color in the heart, and then I didn't end up liking that either. One of the reasons why the RVO2 will lift up so much is because copics are transparent. So the lighter colors will lift the darker colors. Because copics are transparent, I can also do this, which is take my BO2 and go right underneath over my heart, and it will make it purple, and it won't be like strange or weird or like mottled or any of those things. In order to add just a little bit of interest to this coffee mug, I decided to do like a little bit of retro striping. I figured if I was going to have a galaxy card, I might as well just kind of embrace that whole vibe. I am going to try to fix it a little bit. So I'm using a T-square ruler you saw to do a little bit of outlining. I'm going to add some detail work with a white gel pen. And for the first cup, I did just kind of a diagonal stripe. I love adding white details because I think it's something that really makes your card your own. So I did some polka dots on my little purple heart. And then I'm going to do some horizontal stripes for this blue cup here. But you want to make sure you're going with the shape of the card. So my lines are going to be slightly rounded because that is how my cup is drawn. So now I need to add some sort of ground or something because they literally look like they're floating in outer space. This looks like, I don't know, a bad 80s movie. So I'm using the cool grays in the, what is that, C7, C5, and then out with a C3, just so they look a little bit more grounded and not like they're floating out in the middle of nowhere. And then I'm going to outline all of my images because I like a bold black outline. And these stamps already have a pretty bold line, which is beautiful. So I'm just going in and kind of making that a little bit darker. Here's where I try to fix it. So I literally went garbage picking. I'm not kidding. I picked all of my masks up out of my craft garbage can, put them all back in place. And now I'm going to try to go for a little bit more of a rainbow look, just to make it a little less galaxy looking. I still think it looks like something out of I don't know, the 1980s, but I think it was slightly better. So I'm adding some wilted violet into the salty ocean, and I'm adding some fossilized amber into the lucky clover. And I did go back in with the other colors and blend them in together. So I went back with the salty ocean, I went back with the peacock feathers, just to make sure they were blended. For the sentiment, I actually had, my husband bought me a shirt for Christmas, and he was like, I could literally hear you in my head saying this, and so I had to buy it. And it says, first I drink the coffee and then I do the things, which is totally true. So it says, but first coffee, and then I'm going to use some clear Wink of Stella, just kind of pretty much all over everything. And then that is the whole card. So while I don't love the way the background came out, I do think that the coffee cups are super cute. I just wish maybe I had done it a little bit differently, but you can't love them all. So that's totally okay. I'm sure that I learned something that I will apply to another card later on. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.